There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the past is still speaking. Not in words, but in reactions, in fears, in relationships, in the quiet voice that whispers, "You are not enough." Many of us walk through life carrying invisible wounds from childhood. Wounds caused by neglect, harsh words, abandonment, comparison, or silence where love should have been. And the truth is, childhood trauma does not stay in childhood. It grows with us. It shapes how we love, how we trust, how we see ourselves. It becomes the unseen script running behind every decision we make. But today, I want you to hear this clearly. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have to define you. Healing is possible. Not instant, not perfect, but possible. Healing begins the moment you decide that your pain deserves attention, not suppression. That your story deserves compassion, not shame. That your inner child deserves safety, not abandonment again. You are not broken, you are becoming. Today, we are not here to blame the past. We are here to reclaim the future, to understand, to forgive, to release, to rebuild, to rise. This is your invitation to heal, to meet yourself again, with love. Now, let's walk through the 7 powerful steps toward healing your childhood trauma. Healing childhood trauma is not about erasing the past. It is about transforming it into strength. Your pain has purpose, your story has power, and your future is still waiting for you. You are not too damaged. You are not too late. You are not alone. You are healing. And that is your greatest victory. Healing always begins with one courageous act, telling the truth to yourself. Not the polite truth you share with others. Not the softened version that makes everyone comfortable, but the raw, honest truth that lives quietly inside your heart. For many people, childhood trauma becomes a story locked away, buried under years of pretending, minimizing, and surviving. It wasn't that bad, you say. Others had it worse, you repeat. But pain is not a competition. Pain is personal. And what was heavy for your heart deserves to be honored. Acknowledging the wound means giving yourself permission to admit that something hurt you. It means recognizing that the little child you once were had needs that were not met. Maybe it was affection. Maybe it was safety. Maybe it was being heard. Maybe it was simply being loved without conditions. Whatever was missing left an imprint. And that imprint followed you into adulthood, quietly shaping how you see yourself, how you trust others, and how you believe love should feel. Many people avoid acknowledging their wounds because they fear what they might find. They worry that opening old memories will reopen pain. But here's the truth: what you do not heal, you continue to carry. What you refuse to face continues to control you. The unacknowledged wound does not disappear. It simply operates in the background, influencing your choices, your relationships, and your self-worth. Acknowledgement is not about blaming. It is not about pointing fingers or rewriting history with anger. It is about witnessing your own story with compassion. It is saying, "Wes, this happened. Yes, it hurt. And yes, I deserve to heal." That moment of recognition is powerful because it shifts you from denial to awareness, from helplessness to responsibility, from unconscious pain to conscious healing. When you acknowledge your wound, you give your inner child something they may have never received. Validation. You are telling that younger version of yourself, "I see you. I believe you. Your feelings matter." This alone can begin to soften years of emotional armor. Because many trauma survivors were taught to silence their pain, to stay strong, to stay quiet, to keep going. But healing asks for the opposite. It asks you to feel, to listen, to honor. Acknowledgement also requires patience. You may not remember everything at once. Memories may come in fragments. Emotions may rise unexpectedly. This is normal. Healing is not a straight path. It is a gentle unfolding. Each time you recognize a trigger, each time you notice a pattern, each time you connect a present reaction to one of the deepest wounds childhood trauma creates, is confusion about who you truly are. When pain begins early in life, it does not just hurt. It shapes identity. A child who is criticized grows up believing they are not good enough. A child who is abandoned grows up believing they are unworthy of staying love. A child who is neglected grows up believing their needs do not matter. Over time, these beliefs settle in quietly, becoming part of how you introduce yourself to the world. Not with words, but with energy, decisions, and self-expectations. Separating your past from your identity means recognizing a powerful truth. What happened to you is not who you are. Trauma is an experience, not a definition. It is a chapter in your story, not the title of your life. But when trauma is unhealed, it convinces you that you are permanently damaged, permanently broken, permanently less. Healing begins when you challenge that belief. You are not the frightened child who had to survive chaos. You are not the forgotten child who learned to be invisible. You are not the criticized child who tried endlessly to earn love. Those were roles you were forced into, not your true self. Your true self is the one beneath the coping, beneath the armor, beneath the survival strategies. Your true self is whole, even if wounded, strong, even if tired, worthy, even if you were never told so. Separating past from identity also means understanding that many of your current behaviors were once survival tools. Maybe you became a people pleaser to avoid conflict. Maybe you became emotionally distant to avoid disappointment. Maybe you became overly independent because relying on others was unsafe. These behaviors kept you alive emotionally, but what once protected you may now limit you. And recognizing this is not self-criticism, it is self-awareness. When you say, "This behavior comes from my past, but it does not have to control my future," you reclaim choice. You stop living on autopilot. You stop reacting from old wounds. You start responding from new wisdom. This is how transformation happens. Not overnight, but one realization at a time. Separating your identity from trauma also means letting go of labels you never chose. Lazy, too sensitive, dramatic, weak, unlovable. Many trauma survivors carry words that were spoken to them as children like permanent name tags. But those labels were reflections of other people's limitations, not your worth. Healing means peeling them off, one by one, and replacing them with truth. I am enough. I am worthy. I am capable. I am lovable. This process is not about rejecting your past. It is about integrating it. Honoring the fact that you survived, respecting the strength it took to get here. And then deciding that survival is no longer your only story. Growth is now your story. Peace is now your story. Love is now your story. When you separate your past from your identity, you stop asking, "What is wrong with me?" and start asking, "What happened to me, and how can I heal?" That shift changes everything, because you move from shame to understanding, from self-judgment to self-compassion, from stuck to rising. You are not your trauma. You are the one who outgrew it. And that realization is freedom. Inside you lives a younger version of yourself, a child who once needed love, safety, reassurance, and understanding. That child never disappeared. They simply grew quieter, hiding beneath adult responsibilities, relationships, and routines. But they are still there, waiting. Waiting to be seen. Waiting to be comforted. Waiting to finally receive what was missing. Healing childhood trauma means becoming the loving presence your inner child always needed. It means recognizing that although you cannot rewrite the past, you can rewrite the emotional experience of it. You can offer yourself now what others failed to give you then. This is not imagination. This is emotional reparenting. And it is one of the most powerful healing tools you possess. When you give your inner child what was missing, you start by listening. Pay attention to your emotional reactions. When you feel rejected, small, afraid, or unseen, that is often your inner child speaking. Instead of dismissing those feelings, pause and say inwardly, "I am here. I won't leave you." This simple act begins to rebuild trust with yourself. Your inner child may have needed safety, so you create safe spaces now. In your home, in your relationships, in your boundaries. Your inner child may have needed affection, so you speak kindly to yourself, celebrate small victories, forgive mistakes. Your inner child may have needed permission to express emotions, So you allow yourself to cry, to laugh, to feel fully without shame. Many trauma survivors treat themselves harshly, believing toughness equals strength. But true healing comes through gentleness. You cannot heal a wounded child by yelling at them. You heal them by holding them, by reassuring them, by letting them know they are no longer alone. And the beautiful truth is, the adult you have become is capable of doing that. Giving your inner child what was missing also means reclaiming joy. Trauma often steals playfulness, curiosity, creativity. Healing invites them back. Dance alone in your room. Try new hobbies. Laugh freely. Rest without guilt. These acts may seem small, but they send a powerful message to your inner child. Your happiness matters. This practice also changes how you relate to others. When you stop expecting others to heal your inner child, you stop repeating painful patterns. You stop searching for parental love in romantic partners. You stop tolerating disrespect to avoid abandonment. Because you have become your own safe place. At first, this may feel strange. You may resist. You may feel undeserving. But remember, every time you choose self-compassion over self-criticism, you are rewriting the emotional legacy passed down to you. You are ending cycles that once felt unbreakable. One day, you will look back and realize as the child inside you is no longer crying in the dark. They are resting peacefully in the warmth of your self-love, and that is what healing truly means. You theldi foin tanta thirtekasi sepsi 1400,000 virally. There is no heavier burden carried by survivors of childhood trauma than shame. Not guilt for something done wrong, but shame for something they never chose. Believing they were wrong simply for existing. A child does not question the behavior of adults. A child questions themselves. If love was missing, they assume they were unlovable. If kindness was rare, they assume they were undeserving. If abuse occurred, they assume it was their fault. And so, shame becomes the invisible thread woven into their identity. Releasing shame begins with understanding a painful truth. Children always blame themselves. They do this not because they are wrong, but because believing, "It's my fault," feels safer than believing, "The people I need are unsafe." Self-blame is a survival strategy. It gives a child the illusion of control. If I become better, they will love Ma. If I behave perfectly, I will be safe. This belief may have helped you survive, but it is not the truth of who you are. As an adult, shame shows up in subtle ways. You apologize too much. You tolerate mistreatment. You doubt compliments. You feel unworthy of success. You believe you must earn love. These are not character flaws. They are trauma echoes, and the first step in releasing them is recognizing that they were never your fault. You were a child. You did not cause the neglect. You did not create the chaos. You did not deserve the pain. When you truly accept this, something shifts inside you. You stop punishing yourself for a past you did not control. You stop carrying responsibility that was never yours. You begin to feel lighter. Releasing shame also requires compassion. Many trauma survivors speak to themselves in cruel ways, repeating the voices of those who hurt them. You're not good enough. You're too much. You're a problem. Healing means replacing those voices with your own gentle truth. It means saying, "I was always worthy. I simply was not treated that way." This distinction is life-changing. Another powerful part of releasing shame is telling your story. Shame thrives in silence. It grows in secrecy, but when you speak your truth, to a trusted friend, a journal, a therapist, or even yourself, shame begins to lose its grip. You realize you are not alone. That others understand. That your experience is human, not defective. Forgiveness is also part of this journey. Not necessarily forgiving those who caused harm, but forgiving yourself for believing the lies trauma taught you. Forgiving yourself for staying in unhealthy situations. Forgiving yourself for coping in ways that once felt necessary. Self-forgiveness is not weakness. It is reclaiming your dignity. Releasing shame does not mean you will never feel it again. Healing is layered. Some days you will feel strong. Other days old beliefs may resurface. But each time you notice shame and choose compassion instead, you weaken its hold. Slowly, steadily, you rewrite the emotional script. One day you wake up and realize you no longer feel broken. You feel human. You feel real. You feel enough. Because the truth is this: you were never the problem. You were the child who needed love. And now, you are the adult who finally gives it. One of the quietest effects of childhood trauma is emotional numbness. When feelings were ignored, punished, or ridiculed in childhood, you learned a powerful survival lesson. It was safer not to feel, so you built walls. You smiled when you were hurting. You stayed silent when you needed comfort. You became strong when you were actually afraid. Over time, you disconnected from your emotional world, believing that emotions were dangerous, messy, or weak. But healing requires something different. Healing asks you to come home to your feelings. To understand that emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. Every tear, every ache, every moment of anger or sadness is simply your inner self asking to be heard. Learning to feel without fear is one of the bravest acts a trauma survivor can do. At first, allowing emotions may feel overwhelming. You may worry that if you start crying, you'll never stop. That if you feel anger, you'll lose control. That if you feel grief, it will consume you. These fears are normal. They come from years of emotional suppression. But emotions do not destroy you. Suppression does. Feelings rise and feelings pass. They are waves, not permanent states. When you learn to feel safely, you give yourself permission to be human. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad. Instead, you see them as signals. Sadness tells you something mattered. Anger tells you a boundary was crossed. Fear tells you something feels unsafe. Joy tells you you are aligned with your truth. None of these emotions are wrong. They are information. Many trauma survivors themselves for having strong emotions. They say, "I'm too sensitive," or "I overact." But sensitivity is not weakness. It is awareness. The real issue was never your emotions. The issue was that no one taught you how to handle them with care. Now, as an adult, you can learn. Learning to feel without fear also means slowing down. Sitting quietly with your feelings, instead of escaping through distraction. Breathing through discomfort instead of numbing with food, work, or entertainment. Writing your thoughts instead of bottling them. Speaking your truth instead of swallowing it. These small practices teach your nervous system that it is safe to feel. Another powerful step is learning emotional boundaries. Feeling deeply does not mean drowning in emotion. It means observing feelings without letting them control your actions. You can feel anger without harming others. You can feel sadness without giving up. You can feel fear without running away. Emotional maturity is not about avoiding feelings. It is about holding them wisely. As you practice emotional presence, you begin to notice changes. You feel more alive, more connected, more authentic. Relationships deepen because you show up honestly. Self-trust grows because you listen to your inner signals. Life becomes richer because you experience it fully, not from behind emotional walls. Most importantly, your inner child begins to relax. Because once, they had to hide feelings to survive. Now, they have an adult self who says, "You are allowed to feel everything. I will not abandon you." And that is the heart of healing. Not becoming fearless, but learning that feelings are safe, and you are safe within yourself. As we come to the end of this journey, remember this. Healing your childhood trauma is not about erasing the past. It is about transforming it. You cannot go back and change what happened, but you can change what happens next. You can decide that pain will not be the final chapter of your story. You can decide that survival is no longer enough. You want peace, joy, love, and freedom. Every step you take toward healing matters. Each time you acknowledge your wound, you reclaim your truth. Each time you separate your past from your identity, you rediscover your worth. Each time you comfort your inner child, you rewrite your emotional foundation. Each time you release shame, you lift a weight that was never yours to carry. Each time you allow yourself to feel without fear, you come alive again. And each time you choose self-respect and growth, you become the safe home you always needed. Healing is not instant. It is not perfect. Some days you will feel strong, other days you will feel fragile. But every day you continue, you prove something extraordinary. That your past did not defeat you. It shaped you, but it did not end you. You are not broken. You are rebuilding. You are not lost. You are returning home to yourself. You are not weak. You are courageous beyond measure. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all. When you heal yourself, you change generations. You end cycles of pain that once seemed permanent. You become the ancestor who chose love over fear, awareness over denial, truth over silence. Your healing is not just for you. It is a gift to every life your story will touch. So step forward with compassion for yourself. Speak kindly to your heart. Trust the process. And never forget, the child inside you is no longer alone. You are here. You are healing. And your future is finally free.